This is my Ice Bomba Chronomancer. As you've seen, it is literally a one-shot build. And what's great is that it doesn't really require any expensive gear. Like, you don't need a 2 weeks bloodletting, you don't need any Undying Hate Tech Rod, you don't need a +3 Frost Bomb, Prism of Belief, or any expensive weapon. Just a 1 exalt unique staff and a 5 exalt unique helmet with some mana stacking, and you two can just one-shot T3 Zesh just like that. Mapping is also fairly solid, but to be honest, it's not the most interesting part of the build. There's plenty of other Doedres I'm doing mapping builds, but I do think I have some interesting things to add to that archetype as well. Warning, please do not just blindly copy the POB. There are certain nuances to the build that require specific adjustments and fine tuning based on your current gear, at least for the bossing combo. And as for the bossing combo itself, it is literally 12 buttons within a tight time window, which honestly is why this build appeals to me in the first place. I just like doing hard combos in fighting games for high reward, but obviously that's not for everyone, so just a heads up. The whole inspiration for this build in the first place is just to one-shot a boss with Frostball. The way we do that is with Burn of Shadows plus Indigon. If you've seen the Chrono Stormtrooper, then you are probably already familiar with this interaction, but if not, here is a quick summary. Burn of Shadows makes your spells cost life and do extra chaos damage based on the life cost of the spell. The Burdens of Shadows itself is snapshotted to the spell you use, but the gain as extra damage is dynamic. This means that irregardless of what you actually spent to cast the skill with Burden of Shadows, the chaos damage gained from Burden of Shadows is based on what the spell costs at the time it connects. Practically speaking, this means that if I throw out a spark or whatever spell at like 10 life, and then suddenly it somehow becomes 1,000 life costs, even though I throw it out at 10, it's gonna deal like 333% damage gain as extra chaos when it connects. Then there's Indigon. So what Indigon does is that it makes spells do increased damage, but also makes them cost more based on how much mana you spent recently. Recently being the last 4 seconds. So it's kind of like this give or take item where it's like, oh, okay, I spend a lot of mana, so I get to do a bunch more increased damage, but because the spells are so expensive, I can't really throw out any more spells. So it's like this little momentary burst of damage. The increased spell damage from Indigon also follows similar rules to the Burn of Shadows with the dynamic updating. This means that if I throw a spell and then spend a bunch of mana before the spell connects, when it does, it's going to just get all that increased spell damage. Normally, if you use Burden of Shadows and Indigon together, nothing really happens because Burden of Shadows makes everything cost life, and the Indigon spell damage and cost ramp is based on mana spent. So the way you get the ramp to occur is to just use their weapon set that doesn't have a convert to life item like Indigon, and just spend mana there. So you throw a spell in weapon set 1, and then you spend a bunch of mana in weapon set 2, and then the spell thrown out in weapon set 1 gets a bunch of increased spell damage and a much higher cost, which means more gain as damage, which means exponential growth in damage based on mana spent. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like with Frostbomb. Pay very close attention to the chaos damage. I'm going to throw down a Frostbomb and then just spend a bunch of mana. Yeah, like about 1,000,000 chaos damage from the increased spell damage and gain as chaos. Absurd. This is how you can, and this is not just Frostbomb. You can do like any spell that like takes a while before it connects or does a bunch of hits over time. It will do the same thing. Frostbomb is just what I wanted to use because it's very satisfying to see it just one-shot bosses. So because life cost is a damage scaling vector, we need to try to make the Frostbomb as initially expensive as possible. So for me, it has a base cost of 1200 life. This is possible because we use archmage with a big mana pool on top of a bunch of cost multipliers. So taking these cost multipliers off, I want to look at just the archmage damage by itself, or the archmage, the archmage cost increase by itself. Archmage does two things. Of course, it gives you damage gain as lightning based on your percent mana. In this context, it's kind of meaningless because we get like actually thousands of gain as chaos damage from Burn of Shadows, so it completely dwarfs the gain as damage here. What we care about the most in this context is the spells cost an additional 6% of your max mana. So, and because of Burn of Shadows, that cost is converted to life. So with like 5k mana, 6% of that is like what, 300? So you get an additional 300 increased base cost to Frostbomb. So let's see, what does it cost now? 487 if I turn off Archmage. 125. Yeah, it is a dramatic increase to our base costs to Frostbomb to turn on when you have Archmage turned on. And then the cost multipliers are applied to that new base cost. So taking all of these, like 20%, 50% more, 15% more, 20% more, putting all those on, it then just becomes like super expensive, like 1200 life costs. And of course, with the really high life costs, when you ramp that high base cost up by like a few 1000%, it's just, yeah, you get a ton of damage, as we've seen before. So I talked a lot about spending a bunch of mana to ramp up a ton of damage before a spell connects, but I have not talked very much about how to actually spend a lot of mana. This is the part that actually can get kind of tricky if you're careless. So please, if you're really trying to make this build, and this is probably the most like technical part of the build. The way we spend mana is of course on the other weapon set where things cost mana, and we have Archmage on this weapon set. Now, this is for the damage of this weapon set for mapping later on. So just to recontextualize this weapon set, we just have Archmage turned on, which means everything has a very high initial base cost. Even like free skill on this weapon set is going to cost like 686 mana. So this is going to be part of the problem as we try to solve this mana dump problem. So the way we spend the mana pool the first time is quite simple. We just have to spare with a bunch of cost multipliers. With Archmage, adding to the base costs, and all these cost multipliers, 1.5, 1.5, 1.4, 1.2, 1.2, and then also like Eldritch Battery, which doubles like all our mana costs. It's very easy to just spend the entire mana pool the first time. Boom, like that. The question is, how do we spend it a second time? So this is kind of where Chronomancer comes in handy. Chronomancer has this ability called Temporal Rift. It is unlocked right here. You can unlock it very much right away, and with this, after we spend our whole mana pool, we can just Temporal Rift and then just reset our entire mana pool, bypassing the restriction on Indigon, which prevents mana recovery other than regeneration. So then the question is, how do you spend the mana a second time after you refill your mana pool? Because you'll notice that Despair costs 53,000 mana. That is like impossible to spend. The way you do that is to just take a very low level spell that costs nothing, like Snap. Snap has like a level 5 Snap costs 16 mana. It's basically nothing. And you attach Efficiency 2 to it. If you're using Staff like this that has a free skill that does no damage, you can also use that instead. But Snap will work for everyone, I think. So just use level 5 Snap with Efficiency 2. After you spend the mana the first time, Snap will be barely payable after you refresh it. It was 4,800 after doing the ramp. Now, this is the part where it can get a little tricky because the cost of your Despair is going to be based on how much total mana you have, because your total mana contributes to the cost of the skill due to the archmage's channeling thing. So, for example, if I had like way more mana, like if I had like 6k mana, we might run into a problem. Okay, let's say I had like 5.9k mana. Well, my Spare is actually going to cost a little bit more now because it's 6% of that additional like 800 or so mana. It's gonna add up. And if I try to do the same thing, it's not too much. It's a little bit too much for my Snap. So this is the part where you have to be very careful. 5k is just like a very nice number that just works out very well. But if you have more than that much mana or something else, then what you're gonna have to do instead is to make your Despair cost a tiny bit less, so that you don't ramp too hard onto your Snap. Just, replace one of these replace Hiding Curse with like magnified effect. So like instead of a 1.4 multiplier, put a 1.3 multiplier here. So you just want to make your Despair a little cheaper until you can cast both Despair and your Snap after the mana reset. So that time I couldn't cast it, but I think if I put this here instead, Despair, reset, and now it's barely payable. 5.8k. So yeah, that is one thing that might trip you up when you're doing the bossing setup. So just be mindful of that. So all this is amazing for damage, but it's not quite enough. We're gonna need to rely on crit multi to push our damage to one-shotting T3 Pinnacles. So starters, we need to make it so that Frostbomb has a guaranteed crit chance, guaranteed crit against bosses. This is done with Inevitable Critical, with Ambush, with some with crit chance on our staff, and crit chance against full life enemies here, and then just a tiny bit more crit chance, like just on some random node here. So with all of that, the crit chance, cumulative crit chance should look something like 43.9. And that's not counting the increased crit chance against full life enemies from this node. So 50% increase of 13% base is like, what, 6.5 plus 44 basically, which is going to push us up to 50%. And then Ambush gets double crit chance against full life enemies. So with all that, we have basically a guaranteed crit against full life enemies after enable critical charges to maximum, which it will. It always will. Then you push crit multi by a bunch as well. We have crit multi against full life enemies, 100%. Insane with damage here. More crit multi against full life enemies here. And just more crit multi here. it's gonna be like 500% crit multi. You're doing like 6x damage against full life enemies for our frost bomb. That will probably push you to be very close to one-shotting the boss, but not quite. Not if you aren't using very expensive stuff like Atuis or Prisons of Beliefs. I'm assuming we don't have that because I've been trying to make this as budget friendly as possible. So instead, we're gonna use our mechanical skill to attach Sniper Spark and Living Bomb onto the boss before the bomb can detonate. Sniper Spark is just increased crit damage, just free damage. You just attach this to the boss before the bomb detonates, and it gives you a bunch of damage. And then Living Bombs, we put we have overabundance, so we put 2 of these on the boss before the frost bomb detonates. And this one is also assigned to the Burden of Shadows weapon set, so that it gets all the ramping damage as well from Burden of Shadows, Indigon, all that shenanigans. So Living Bomb accounts for like, I'd say roughly 30%. Yeah, roughly like 30% more damage. So if Frostbomb gets you really close to one-shotting the boss, then Living Bomb will probably push you to one-shotting the boss. Okay, so putting it together, what is the boss combo? Boss combo goes as this: Sigil, and then Time Freeze, and then Frostbomb, and then after the Frostbomb, you have 4 seconds to do everything else. Sniper Spark, Living Bomb, Despair, Temporal Rift, Snap, and then you're basically done. You can Temporal Rift one more time to just refill your mana, and then at this point you should just one-shot. You should one-shot like basically everything in the game. It's not easy, of course. This is gonna take some practice, but I find it very rewarding whenever you pull it off and you one-shot just one-shot bosses with it. Okay, so now let's talk about mapping. Low key, mapping was kind of an afterthought. I figured that with that Undying Hate Tech Rod and a 2 Louise combo, I could just do whatever I wanted and it would have worked out. But I actually found a pretty nice mapping setup that doesn't rely on that combo. So here it is. So our main clear is 1 button. Doedre is Undoing. This just makes it so that the curse we place down becomes a trap that detonates as soon as an enemy steps on it, or if we just place it on top of an enemy, it'll just immediately detonate. This is not a very new concept. People have done builds with Doedre's Undoing before, but there are a few key elements to keep in mind for how it's set up in this build. So, first and foremost, we need to reach about 98% faster curse activation speed. Otherwise, it just takes forever for the trap to come out. And with 98%, it's like basically almost instantly health as soon as the curse is placed. The way you do that is very simple. You just get like this wheel here for a nice 70%, and then you get 28% more from your jewels. So I have like 8 here, I have 13 here, and I have like 7 here. So that's like 28%. You do not want more than that because at 99 it actually like loops back into being the full activation time, and then at 100 and up it just fizzles out the entire curse. It doesn't even get placed. So yeah, you wanted your curse activation speed to be like up to 98% faster. Second, in this build, because we have like so much mana, it would be a complete waste not to use archmage to boost Doedre's Undoing. With 5k mana and 4% gain as lightning per 100, we get like 200% damage gain as lightning. So it literally triples the damage as lightning. And because it's triple, it gets 200% damage as lightning or cold if you convert it. This now makes it so that Doedre's Undoing does like 2/3 elemental damage, 1/3 chaos damage, which is why we use elemental weakness rather than despair. It is it's just doing it's just like more value from that curse. Uh, and then here's the main thing that changes it from for this build. So because we are using Indigon, we really can't use mana to pay for elemental weakness or for our curse because every time we use it, it just gets more and more expensive, and then we just can't use it at all. So like, if I don't have like life tap, it's just like use it twice, and then it drains all the whole mana. It's 11,000 mana. I can't use it. It's really bad. So we have to make it cost life instead. So that's one thing. The other thing is, okay, well, now that it costs life, how are we supposed to restore that life? Because this is still not cheap. This is like 480 life per cast. So when it comes to sustaining life costs, there's a few approaches. The easiest is to just use Undying Hate Tech Rod, but that jewel is really stupid, and I'm just gonna assume we don't have it. But yeah, if you do have it, you can just throw that on, and it would just fix everything with some increased life regenerate. The way that I've decided to go about it in this build instead is to use Eternal Youth. Life recharges. This is like low-key bugged, I'm pretty sure, because the way it works is it makes it so that your life recharges instead of energy shield, and the recharge happens after a base delay of like 4 seconds. Any loss of life resets this delay. However, it is not. That delay is non-existent here. I can just spend my life, and it just refills itself. It just keeps recharging. I'm guessing either that's a bug or spending life does not count as loss of life. Yeah, so maybe it's not a bug. Maybe it is a bug. Maybe it's not a bug. But anyways, if it's not a bug, then yeah, we have. Using that, we basically have infinite life. But you can't just take this by itself. You need to increase your recharge rate. Now, normally you can take just increase energy shield recharge rate nodes on the tree like this. But there's actually a much more efficient way to do it. Instead, I have a Warrior Invictus with 5 sockets. The most important thing about this body piece is that it just has 5 sockets. For me to slot on 5 of these, 50% increase shield recharge rate. So with all that, and then like even some more on my staff, it's like almost 300% increased energy shield recharge rate. And let's see, the base recharge rate is like what, 5%? So that's like 50%. That becomes like 50% of your life per second in recharge. It is like, this is like basically more than enough to pay for spamming your spell like non-stop. Okay, actually, Eternal Youth is almost certainly bugged because there's ways for you to regain the recharge delay that's supposed to happen. Like this recharging all the time is not gonna work. If you have any source of faster start of energy shield, either from your gear or from a jewel or from the tree, then you will actually regain the recharge delay. So I take this and look, it doesn't instantly recharge. I have to wait 4 seconds for the recharge to come back.
Yes.
Refunding this will not clear it, I think. I think you have to go to a new area and then come back for the like bugged version of no recharge to return. Secondly, if there is a mismatch of energy shield between one weapon set and the other, then the weapon set that like hasn't changed in energy shield will also regain its delay. So for example, if I have a focus equipped, Oh wait, no. If I have a focus equipped, and then I go to a new area, then it regains the delay. Which is even more wild because the last way to regain it was just to equip a point, but now you have to go to a new area and then it like it like regains the delay. See, taking this off, going back. No more. So because of that, we can't really use a one focus because the focus will like unbug the life recharge. Also taking any source of of increased maximum energy shield on the tree will also like unbug to regain the delay. So if I like say go upset 1 and I take like this node here which has like increased max energy shield, and then I go to new area. So Chronomancer 2 did not gain the new thing, so it's still fine. Or not fine, I guess, from your point of view. And then Chronomancer 1, yeah, it goes back to having its delay. But Chronomancer 2 does not have the delay. Only Chronomancer 1 has the delay. So, yeah, you cannot have a mismatch of energy shield between your weapon sets, either from the tree or from gear, and you cannot have any source of faster energy shield recharge. Fastest form of energy shield recharge. So, yeah, very bugged. So with that in mind, if they do patch this out, then your life cost solution goes back to being Undying Hate Tech Rod. But also there's a few alternatives that are like not as good, but still like pretty solid. There is Life on Kill. This is pretty much sufficient to do mapping. The only time where this may not be great is if you're fighting a really tanky rare and you're trying to kill them with curses with your curse spam and you're just draining your life. So that's like pretty good for mapping overall, but like not perfect. And then the other thing is just just full dumping your life and then using temporal rift to reset it, or spamming your flask. So yeah, just keep that in mind as like alternatives if you're using the recharge hack / bug and it gets fixed. And then if you are using the bug, that just keep in mind that you just can't use a wand focus. So you're kind of forced to use like a staff, or like a wand. You can use a wand scepter, I guess. That would also be fine. But I think a staff is going to be optimal, and I'll talk about like what kind of weapon you want later. So back to Doedre's Undoing on the elemental weakness. There is some flexibility to how you want to set this up. I will say that if you just want more damage, then Controlled Destruction and Zenith are just the two best like sport gems you can put on. It's just free more damage. But that was also the matter of like, do you want optimal clear or do you want visually satisfying clear? And for me, I picked visually satisfying. I like having one strong curse just instantly shatter a path, so I have Embitter on here, so that all that gain-ass lightning damage from archmage gets turned into cold damage, and then it just freezes a bunch of enemies and then just like pops them, shatters them all instantly. But that's not actually optimal. What's actually optimal is probably replacing this with Spell Cascade, and then just instead of it freezing, it shocks for more damage, and then this cascading curses just overlap each other and just absolutely shred rares by itself and disintegrates the entire screen. This is like objectively better clear, but I do not like the visual clarity of cascading shocked enemies like this. So yeah, up to you what you prefer, but just know that this is not like you don't have to strictly copy this. All you need is the first two, and then these three can be like whatever. But I do recommend these two though. These are just very good like damage supports. So now let's talk about the passive tree. So this passive tree is the type where you just go in a big, uh, long highway all the way to the bottom, and then just grab a bunch of OP stuff down here. The reason is because, well, there's not too many things in this tree that's like directly useful to us. Most of the power is actually going to come from the jewels. From the tree itself, the only thing that's important is like mind over matter, Whispers of Doom, in Eldritch Battery, and Eternal Youth. So those keystones, and then like, yeah, max mana here, and some int here, and then some presence, AoE, and aura magnitude with int, and then the stuff that's relevant to the weapon set. So for like the mapping, we want, AoE for curse, so that we hit more enemies, and then we have faster curse activation. And for this weapon set, I also put in the arcane intensity as well, for that 150% increased spell damage. And then for the other weapon set, we have, yeah, crit chance against full life enemies, crit damage bonus against full life enemies, crit damage bonus against full life enemies, crit damage bonus here, increased cost of skills for that frost bomb, and then some skill effect duration so that our time freeze lasts a little bit longer. So that's like the only thing that's actually important to the build. After that, you can just path wherever to get wherever you want with the remaining points. And what I decided to do is just go to the very bottom, get some more um, jewel sockets, and then grab this here, which gives me 5% mana, 5% boost speed, 5% life, and then this here, which is gonna be chill immunity, which is very nice. And then with some of the extra weapon set points for weapon set 1, I decided to just grab this node here, this wheel, this entire bundle here, and this bundle here. This is actually obscene amounts of move speed. Like, I'm pretty sure this weapon set has like 24% more move speed, like increased move speed over the Boston weapon set. Does not have this. So, yeah, I mean, if there's anything that you wanted to grab on the tree, I this is just like one of the best things to go for. So you may as well go for it if you have all the skill points left over. And then as for the jewels themselves, let's start with the rare jewels. There's only two things that are really important. One, get faster curse activation up to 28% from your jewels. No more than that. If you go more than that, then it will bug out and like either be back to normal speed or just not even cast. So 28%, no more. So I have like 13 here, I have 8 here, and I have like 7 here. So that's 28% for me. And then every single one of these should also have increased area of curses. It's just really high value AoE. And then after that, um, yeah, I think presence AoE is pretty good because that gives you more AoE for the Apex of the Moment slow from Chronomancer. And then if you're going for the freezing route like I am with Embitter, then some extra freeze buildup will also be nice. But yeah, I mean, most importantly, you just want uh, faster activation of curses and then curse AoE. And then as for the unique jewels, so let's start with this one. This is an Undying Hate Cargo, not Tekrod. The number of souls doesn't matter. All that matters is that it says Kurgle. And what that does is it gives you access to like this instead or whatever um, unique like or a keystone that's near it. So we're taking this because we just want to overflow our mana. We don't spend our mana when we map, so we may as well just let it slowly regen all the way up to 50% overflow, and that just gives us a nice little bit of extra effective health to not get one shot. I think after I got this, I've never come close to dying ever since. Before I got this, I was still not dying, but I had some close calls. After getting this, it's just like I'm not even close to dying like ever. And then as for the other unique jewels, so Megalomaniac / your Anoint. We just want increased intelligence. So Decipherfulness is 6% increase in, and then Polemically is 7% increase attributes. So yeah, just anoint one, Megalomaniac the other one, and get the extra attributes for more damage on your Doedre's Undoing. And then as for the From Nothing, nothing really stands out to me that much. Like this could just be another rare jewel with curse AoE, but there is one that's kind of alright, and it's like this one here. This gives you another 28% increased curse magnitude, which is pretty nice since that affects the elemental weakness. So we do more damage with Doedre's Undoing, and then that also affects the Blasphemy Temp Chains, and that also affects the Despair. So we get 3 curses that benefit off of getting this two right here. And then of course, if you have like the budget, I mean, actually it's very cheap anyways, but right now it is at least. You can also throw on a plus 3 levels of Frostbomb so that your Frostbomb one shots more, or it just does more damage. It already one shots, so I don't see the point. Yeah, I don't really see the point of adding this. I guess if you add this, then you don't have to ever bother doing Living Bomb and Sniper Smart. You just get 80% more damage. So yeah. Yeah, that's basically the tree. Nothing too crazy.
Okay, so let's go over the gear real quick. The gear required to achieve power similar to what I have is probably not gonna cost you any more than 10 divines. Except if you do add Magic Find to the gear, then that's a different story entirely. But to just map and boss like how I do, you just need you don't need more than 10 divines, and probably less than that. So let's start with Burner Shadows. Burner Shadows is core to the one shot, of course, and these staffs come at like 1 exalt by default. But we probably because they're 1 exalt, we may as well go for a nice corrupt. The one we're going for is level 2 alcohol spell skills. These again also are not that expensive, like 20 exalts, like a couple exalts. We of course want one that has the 2 sockets at least. So we can slot in that increased crit chance. And then next, Indigon. Indigon is also not very expensive. You're looking for one that has like a high weighted sum for both the increase cost of skills and then increased spell damage rolls. These also are not very expensive if you are looking for one socket. Yeah, like you just look for you take these 2 and then you just go for a weighted sum as high as you can, and these are not expensive. Of course, the 2 sockets, that's a little bit more expensive, which is what I have, but nothing like crazy. Next, there's Warrior Invictus. So the reason why we take this again is because we want to socket as many of these runes as possible. This is body armor only with the energy shield recharge. The runes themselves are like 1 to 2 exalts. And then the body piece, you want one that has attributes per socket, mana per socket, and then LE res per socket. 4 is good enough in my opinion. Like a 4 socketed, like default 4 socketed Warrior Invictus is fine, but if you can get a 5 socket, that'd be better. I think 4 sockets, these are like 4 sockets with the goals we care about. They should just be like a couple exalts as well. So next is the staff that we use for our mapping, which is the Doedre's Undoing Curse Spam. So if I didn't mention this before, but Doedre's Undoing, the damage scaling is based on your int, so double your int is the base damage. So across the rest of the gear, we're actually scaling a lot of int, and my character, I have like
like at almost 800. So when it comes to the weapon to best assist this, well, first of all, we can't use a wand focus because of the problem I mentioned earlier with life recharge. If you use a focus, then your life recharge regains delay and makes it so that we can't take advantage of the free recharge for sustain. So we're basically stuck using a staff. When it comes to staffs, there's only two that come to my mind that are like viable for this build. So the one that I currently have is the Unborn Lich because what
Doedre's Undoing, there's a 0% base crit chance. So crit scaling is completely useless, and then also it doesn't scale off levels, so level scaling is completely useless. That leaves the only relevant things for our weapon to be increased damage and int, and then like mana last. But if you have a ton of int across the rest of your gear, then you don't need it too much on your staff. You just need as much like increased damage as possible.
and the Unborn Lich is by far the most increased damage you can get. So for this one, we want to query like this. Increased damage per 100 mana. All you do is you look at your mana and you weight it. You divide that by 100, and that's the weighting for how much this is worth. So that's the probably the where the majority of the increased damage comes from. And then after that, it's increased elemental damage at 0.66 weighting. The reason why is because remember, the skill has a base that's like base chaos damage, but because of archmage, we're doing 200% increased damage as either lightning or cold, depending on if we use emitter or not. So it does like 1/3 chaos and 2/3 like elemental damage. So we weight these two rolls like this. So either 0.66 increased damage and then 0.33 chaos damage, because that's the actual increased damage we're gaining from these stats. And then you want to look for like at least 500 for this to be worthwhile. And even at 500, this is like actually it's really cheap. Once you start pushing like 550 and above, it gets a little bit more, even like maybe 600. My current Unborn Lich has like 600 for the weighting on that, which means mine's a bit higher end, but I think 500 is like more than enough, and those are extremely cheap. Alternatively, you may also use the Whispering Ice. This is what I was using in my last video and for a while before I decided to switch off of it. So Whispering Ice is also pretty good in this build because it gives you percent increased spell damage per int. You only want this if you can hit the 5% corruption, because 4% is just not enough. Even at 5% and like roughly 800 intelligence, it's only 400% increase damage. And then the increased int seems really good for this build. Like it sounds really good, but it's not as much as you think. Even if I had a max rolled increased int, the increased int would only account for like roughly 5 to 6% more damage in the context of the rest of the gear. So yeah, it's like Whispering Ice is definitely like less damage than Unborn Lich, even with the corruption. It's only good because or worth considering because it gives you that nice chill aura around you to turn your enemies into like actual stones that can't move. But if you don't care about debuffing your enemies so much, then Unborn Lich is objectively just the most damage you can get. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of the gear. So for everything else, you want an int roll on everything and a mana roll on everything, and then res cap. So for the rings, you have int mana, int mana, int mana, int mana, and then this one I'll talk about this later. But yeah, you want int mana on everything and then res cap. That should not be terribly expensive. Like
just looking at the gearing I have for my gloves. My gloves, if you go for mana, int, and then some resistances, there should be like, yeah, not too much. If you go for your boots, and you go for like resistance, move speed, int mana, also not too much. You can push it higher based on what your budget allows. And then for the belt, yeah, just mana, life. Actually, you don't really need mana and resistances, and that's not too much. Life is good because more life is just, I mean, it's just better. You have more leeway to spend spells, and also you can cost a more expensive frostbomb. But like, even with my current gear, I'm like 400 life over my max, my frostbomb cost, so you don't really need that much life to be honest. As for the rings, you're going to want mana, percent mana, and then int and resistances. So everything except we also have percent mana as well. If you try to find one with mana, percent mana, int, and resistances, it's gonna cost like 60 bucks. Just like looking at the search for this, yeah, like 150 mana, 30 int, like resistances and max percent max mana. It's gonna be like, these are kind of expensive. Do not pay for this. This is actually a scam. Just look for the first three instead. And this is like not that expensive. Just a couple exalts. We're not actually even. We're gonna push this down even more. Maybe like 140 and then like 80 resistances. Yeah, these are extremely cheap. So buy one of these instead. So I'm gonna show you for example. I'm gonna buy the first one.
It's yours.
All you do to get the percent mana roll, and in fact the only way to get the percent mana roll is to use the perfect essence find. So this just removes a random modifier and hits it with like 5% increased max mana on average. It's a prefix, so it's gonna remove one of the first three lines, and the last three will be the same. So with this, you have like a 2 in 3 chance of getting everything you want. So let's see here. Okay, we got like the bad roll, so I probably wouldn't take this ring, but yeah, we have mana, percent mana, and then like in fire res. As we saw though, the attempt to do this is like nothing. It costs actually like pennies to try to just buy these and then roll them, or the increase max mana. So yeah, I think on average, for good rings, it should require more than like worst case one div going rolling for these. Okay, lastly, there's the amulet. So for the amulet, you're gonna want 4 things in particular. You're gonna want flat mana roll, percent mana roll, 60 total spirit, and percent increase intelligence. And then for the last two, whatever's good. I got lucky with mine. I got 22 attributes, then some chaos res. But yeah, the first 4 rolls is what you're looking for in an amulet. If you try to buy these straight up, I think they go for like 30 divines. Actually, like unironically, if you try to just buy an amulet that fits that criteria, it's gonna be like, yeah, this is like insane. Do not buy this. This is, we can craft it for way cheaper. But actually, this video is already like extremely long, so I'm just gonna like write in the pinned comment below how the steps you need to craft it. I think right now this amulet, for the stats you want, the average cost of an amulet would be like, I want to say 3 divines, 2 or 3 divines to get something like this, but there's a lot of variation to crafting, so maybe this it doesn't hold true in like the future. But then one last note about upgrades you can do to your build. So there are 3 very simple ones to make it so that your frostbomb
does way more damage, so you don't have to rely on doing a whole combo with Sniper Spark and Living Bomb. Atuli's Bloodletting, of course. This is literally just Burden of Shadows on a Spore Gem. You just take this and you put it where Second Wind is, and you just now do 60% more damage. Of course, those are like over 11 divines, so yeah. The other one is Prism of Belief for Frostbomb. This is also like, I think for a +3, it's like 1 divine, and it's like 80% more damage as well. But there is an opportunity cost with this. You have to, replace one Sport Gem or one jewel for another. So you lose out on like a little bit of AoE or whatever from your tree. And then lastly, there's Undying Hate Fraud. So these are like nine divines roughly, and they make it so that you can solve your life cost without having to rely on this weird recharge gimmick. And if you can solve it without relying on recharge, then you can get a better body piece for more mana, ES, that's just better. You can just get a really nice rare body instead. So yeah, that's like some simple ways to upgrade your gear. There's a lot more complexity to how you can upgrade as well. Like, for example, you don't actually need Burden of Shadows. You can actually go for like a +8 Bond Focus using, the Burden of Shadows on a Sport Gem, Atuli's, and then rely on Tech Rod for your regen instead of recharge. So there's like a lot of like ways you can approach this build for higher end, but I think I don't want to talk about them. I think I talked enough for this video. So of course, to end the video, I like doing a little bit of gameplay commentary. So I'm just gonna run some map, and just talk over it. I think when it comes to map mods, there's nothing you truly can't run. I think everything is playable. I generally do avoid temp chains myself, but you could run those. It doesn't really matter. I guess the reduced recovery is also a little annoying, but not really a deal breaker. Also, you'll notice when you enter most maps, or actually every map you enter, you can start with no mana. This is due to Indigon preventing the map from giving you your starting mana. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but it's just a little annoyance. There's 2 workarounds. One, you can just take it off before you enter the map, or 2, you can take it off and then walk over a checkpoint and then put it back on. So yeah, a little annoyance, but you can, you'll get used to working around that. So yeah, I mean, pretty fast. I got like, the really very nice move speed nodes from the bottom of the tree on the weapon set, so I'm just walking around and popping back. The chill aura from this, what's it called? Chronomancer and James. Oh yeah, the slow war from Chronomancer and James is more than enough to keep you pretty safe. Let me see here. Everything's like, very slow. Barely move. You're pretty fast, they're very slow, and you one-shot them, so happens to be a breeze for the most part. Shield dust. So. Oh, I want to show you something. So, remember earlier I said you don't have to go with the free setup, you can instead go for Spell Cascade. The Spell Cascade, if you fight, when you use it, it's objectively more damage, like just everywhere, and it's not lagging because it doesn't freeze enemies. But it's very, the visual clarity is like, this is not amazing. I'll be honest. It's really hard to see anything with all the shocked bodies and curse spam. But the damage on this is very good. Like, if you do this and you do and it overlaps on the dude, it's gonna like disintegrate most health bars. So yeah, I mean, you could use, if you use Spell Cascade and no emitter, you can like actually do like most. You can just like one blind your way through like literally everything with bosses and whatnot. But I prefer the Ice Shatters, so I'm
I'm gonna go with that instead. And my computer can paint the ice particles going everywhere, so I go with it.
Sand, take you!
I think. Yeah, the other thing doing is really strong. I think it's quite underrated. And if you in stack, it has really good base damage, like more than anything, more than most spells, without any levels 2 skills. And it hits in a really wide area, so wonder if it'll get nerfed next week or not. If it doesn't get nerfed, I'm probably gonna keep playing Doedres every week. Yeah, very nice. Do I want to do Mage? No, it's going to be the boss dude. I think you can imagine big. You know, I'll do the Mage. We'll see how like big packs get just absolutely shattered. So yeah, I mean, Mage should be pretty chill. You just walk around and remember there's 100 mobs. If one speaks or full of damage. Quite satisfying, but not very. I don't think my computer's very happy with me doing this. Those ice particles are not cheap to run through. Sometimes the sound even bugs out too, with how many ice crews are getting, or how many guys are getting shattered at the same time. Alright, so we'll do the boss, then I think that would mark the end of the video. Bossing, we should do the typical full combo.
Now you die!
Now don't move!
Yeah, I mean, I've practiced the combo so many times now, I can do it like muscle memory. But,
The winds
you
bring
will need some practice at first. Yep, I think that's the video. I hope if you do play it that you have a lot of fun with both the mapping and the bossing one shots. And if you like the video, then yeah, give me a comment saying giving me an idea of how your experience has gone. But thanks for watching.